Ladies and gentlemen, gather round because today marks the dawning of a new era in real estate podcasting. From the heartland of America's neighborhoods to the pinnacles of industry power, we are here to bring back patriotism, here to restore truth, and here to remind us all what it means when we say, under all is the land. Introducing your host. I am the unstoppable force of energy and integrity, the Southern spark plug who tells it like it is, Leigh Brown. And by my
Woo!
side, the man, the myth, the industry's fearless provocateur, notorious R.O.B. Hahn.
Uh,
Woo!
Woo!
Together, we form a tag team unlike any other, cutting through spin, challenging the status quo, and reigniting pride in the profession that builds the American dream. Buckle up, listeners, because this is Under All is the Land. And since
That
obviously I had to read it because it's our very first episode, Rob and I would like to invite any of you who think you are the voice of God to let us know, and we'll send you the script that ChatGPT came up with here, and you can record it and be absolutely memorialized,
that's right.
immortal. You could be an immortal
Immortal.
voice of
You'll be
podcasting.
immortal.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it's basically like setting a legacy if you want to read what ChatGPT said. So if you want to know the uses of AI, that's a decent one right there.
There you go. How are you, Leigh?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. All things considered. So since this is a brand new venture for both of us, a brand new effort, I think it's probably worth spending a little time what it is we're trying to accomplish and why we wanted to do it. Right. And I'll start. I mean, I'll be honest by saying that this was a phone call, that you and I had after the assassination of Charlie Kirk and our fear for kind of the future of the country. And just talking about, and you and I have obviously spoken about the industry as a whole, right? The realtor movement. And I felt like there was a need maybe to remind people, right? What at least the origins of the realtor movement are, right? And I'll just kind of start it off that way. And I know, you agree with it, but I just want everyone to kind of have an idea as to why we're doing this, what the idea is, why we called it Under All Is the Land. As I think everyone knows, this is the preamble to the Code of Ethics, right? Which was written in 1913.
1913.
That's right.
And the
And
association was only 5 years old, by the way. I think that's important that
that's right.
our founding fathers of real estate pulled together the National Association of Real Estate Boards in 1908. And within 5 years, they say we've got to have some guardrails on how this operates
Right.
because it's like driving down the highway. If you don't have some lines painted on there, you don't know where you're going to go. And the lines they're not so rigid that you can't drive over them. And they do move and change as you yield and merge and turn, but they're critical. And our founding fathers knew that. And frankly,
Right.
Rob, I really wish more of our realtor members knew the preamble existed because I'm pretty sure the bulk of them can only quote under all is the land.
That's right. That's right. And I think I like the way you phrase it as guardrails. I also think of it as almost like the Declaration of Independence for the country, right? It's not the Constitution, which lays out all the rules and principles, right? It's the Declaration sort of saying, here's why we're doing this, right? Here's why we are creating this new republic. And to me, the preamble to a lot of it was guardrails on one hand, but it's also the motivation, right? It's also the articulation of why the founding fathers got together and did what they did, why they felt it was necessary to spend time, energy, treasure, to actually organize like this. So I just thought, again, I've actually been talking about every realtor association meeting should begin by reading this, right? At least the first 2 or 3 paragraphs. But we're going to start our new effort, sort of reminding people where we come from, especially if you are a realtor. I am not. You are, and you have been your entire career. You've been a champion, although kind of abused, which we'll get into, I'm sure.
Different episode.
Right. Whereas I am not, but I'm married to one. All my friends are like. So it's a movement that I've found incredibly important to my life and career. So, Under All Is the Land. Upon its wise utilization and widely allocated ownership depend the survival and growth of free institutions and of our civilization.
Okay, so can we pause right there? Because I think it's important to emphasize to our listeners and viewers, if you're wondering what this has to do with Charlie Kirk, you need to pay attention to something he's been talking about for the last few months, which is the extreme wealth gap that is keeping an entire younger generation from homeownership. And he talked about that you've got so much money that is concentrated in people like Bill Ackman. And if you don't understand what this conversation is, go listen to Tucker Carlson's episode. You'll get the background.
Yep,
But he was over here saying something is broken when our entire younger generation has lost hope in
that's right.
homeownership in their little tiny house.
That's
And
right.
so when you have a bold political commentator who is talking about opportunity, that's what the preamble says. And so, for
Mhm.
any of the people that I've communicated with who said, there's no reason for the realtors to make a statement, there's no reason for realtors to be involved after Charlie Kirk, baloney. This is why we have to be involved because we just lost an actual vocal, visible voice for housing.
Um, and the other thing, like the free institutions, is the the term that really resonates for me, and and I think what we need to explore is, you're right. To me, housing is at the root of so many of our problems. Right? It's not simply that we have income inequality and therefore the rich won't own the houses. Right? There's a lot of reasons to suspect that the income inequality exists because of housing. Because if you bought a house in 1962 for $18,000 and now that house is worth 1.8 million, you're going to have wealth inequality. And that's going
Well,
to
but
happen.
but let's be fair,
Right.
your wealth was stolen from you by the fiat currency situation because we
We're gonna
came
get
off the
right.
gold standard. So
I knew we're going to get into so many different topics,
but
but I'm
that
going to stick
that
to
drives
this.
me nuts though, because the younger generation hasn't been given a basic grasp of
Agreed.
economics, Rob, and they don't know that every time the Fed does what they did today, we're recording this on September 18th. The Fed lowered the interest rates. All that's going to do is quantitative easing. That's more dollars into the economy, which is going to look good for a minute because interest rates will tickle down just a little bit. Stock market goes up a little bit and your money becomes more worthless.
I think one of the things we'll find throughout kind of how we keep doing this podcast, we want to explore all of these topics, which seem political. But here's my point. I'm going to go back to the preamble. Realtors, it's your roots, your very identity is rooted in survival and growth of free institutions and of our civilization. Let me continue. Realtors should recognize that the interests of the nation and its citizens require the highest and best use of land and the widest distribution of land ownership. Let me pause there. You're a realtor. You've been a realtor activist for your entire career. You've been a major leader in the movement. It feels to me like we have spent too much time focused on the highest and best use and not enough time focused on interests of the nation and its citizens.
Well, what we actually haven't paid attention to on highest and best use is whose definition of highest and whose definition of best.
Sure.
Because it's not an objective standard, it is subjective to the people making the decisions, which is why I've been fussing for so long that realtors have to be involved in planning and zoning committees and they have to be
Hmm.
involved in county commission. Because if your county commissioners think that the highest and best use is a recycling plant for rare earth minerals such as lithium ion batteries. That's terrible for your groundwater. It's terrible for the overall environment. Nobody wants to live next to it. So now you're going to drop housing values nearby. But the leader said that was highest and best. Y'all need to understand that as realtors, if we're going to say things like highest and best, who's going to define that?
And
I'm
but
not comfortable with a elite leadership defining things when we as a huge grassroots organization have all these people who, by virtue of becoming a realtor, said you would abide by this and agree with this in your preamble, but you didn't even read it.
what I would propose is that who defines highest and best is actually from the previous clause, which is the interests of the nation and its citizens.
Right. So who is that though? Right. So we have to get this is, I
We have
think,
to
how
get
we
deep.
got where we are.
We have to get deep. However, I'm simply pointing out, and this is the reason for this podcast, right? I believe some of the most patriotic people who love this country have been realtors
I
that I've
agree.
met in my life, right? Not all, but fine. It's not like all people.
There's no broad brushing of anybody, but
No, but I'm just simply pointing out that some of the most patriotic people I have ever met have been realtors. And I think they embody this preamble. I think they embody this. So in light of the tragic killing of Kirk, in light of the fact that we are going to, and frankly, the country has been divided for far too long, right? This is our attempt to sort of remind our friends, our audience, to the extent that we have any influence whatsoever, to try and get the conversation going about, look, the roots of the realtor movement are in patriotism, are in love of this country, the interests of the nation and its citizens, right? So let's continue. They require the creation of adequate housing, the building of functioning cities, the development of productive industries and farms, and the preservation of a healthful environment. This was written in 1913, long before any of the insane, crazy modern things were. Let's continue. Such interests impose obligations beyond those of ordinary commerce. They impose grave social responsibility and a patriotic duty to which realtors should dedicate themselves and for which they should be diligent in preparing themselves. Realtors, therefore, are zealous to maintain and improve the standards of calling and share with their fellow realtors a common responsibility for its integrity and honor. The breakthrough for me as I was reading this more recently after kind of our conversation is this. The entirety of the time I've been in the industry, one of the big things that every realtor, every real estate agent broker has been like just hammering about is lack of professionalism,
Mhm.
right? And if you attend any realtor association meeting, one of the topics that gets brought up all the time is we need more profession, we need more professionalism, right? And I think that's wonderful. When you read this, what becomes perfectly clear is that the professionalism is not just kind of out there on its own. The professionalism is connected to grave social responsibility and patriotic duty, right? It isn't, in other words, it isn't just our founders are not like, we're just going to be professional for the hell of it. It's
again, it's guardrails, right? So
right.
the concept that if we want respect, then our organization gives us some guidelines, and then when we abide by those guidelines, then you get the respect. It's very chicken and egg,
Right.
but we do act like professionalism is a stand apart thing over here. It has nothing to do with the outcomes of real estate.
I think what I'm proposing is it's not simply we're going to have professionalism so we get respect from our clients. If you read this, what it says is we're going to have professionalism because we have grave social responsibility and a patriotic duty.
Okay,
So
so what
right?
percentage of realtor members
So
do you think believe real estate carries a grave social responsibility right now?
that's my question for you because you're the realtor leader.
Yeah, but you look at us from the outside, you're the provocateur, so what percentage would you say? I know what your wife would say because she's a little black pilled right now, so if you're yeah, you're on your own accord.
I'm gonna. I think. I think the people who make the connection probably less than 1%.
I would agree because if you
Here's what I mean.
say, well, first of all, break it out. seventy
Let
percent
me
of
explain.
realtor members don't
Right.
sell anything, so wipe them out.
Sure. Well, here's the thing. I don't even think you have to sell anything, right, to be a realtor. I think you have to embody these ideals and try, right? In other words, you could be new, right? Maybe you're brand new, this tough industry, you haven't gotten it going, you
But
know.
we're talking grave social responsibility though. So I
Right.
think you have to take the unseasoned ones out because they're too new to see the gravity of what
Sure.
they do.
Sure. I think I'll put it this way. So, for example, I had the opportunity to interview Chad DeVries, who is the Arizona realtor who got hauled up before the Star Chamber on speech code charges, right? And it is obvious and plain to me that that man is a patriot, right? He mentions it throughout, and some of what kind of motivates him is this love for this country, right? I think he would agree. I would call him a patriot. Now, I don't think he regards his being a realtor as connected to that at all. In fact, I think the reason why he got involved in the speech code thing was he felt this was actually in conflict with his patriotism, right?
Oh,
So
but
I think
but
so.
that's how far we've
That's
fallen,
how
not the
far we have
original
fallen.
words though. Yeah.
Correct. Correct. So I don't believe the number of realtors who are patriots who feel like I'm a realtor because I'm a patriot, I think is vanishingly small. I think the number of people make the connection and say, listen, I'm a realtor. I want to help my neighbors. I want to help my city be a functioning city. I want a healthful environment, right? I want to create, the highest and best use of land and all that's under it. I don't think they connect those. I think they're patriots over here in what they call their political life. And then they're realtors over here in their quote professional life. And the two are not connected.
Oh, I would
Meanwhile,
agree with that completely
right,
because they've been told that the two are in conflict. That's the
that's right.
messaging they received
That's right.
is that you can't be both.
That's right. Meanwhile, again, you just read the preamble to the code, and like, I don't know how we can deny it. I just don't see how it's possible to deny that the realtor movement and NAR was founded as a patriotic America movement. I don't think it's possible to deny it. I don't. Now, is it today? What do you think?
I I mean, the organization, as I said to our last CEO, Bob Goldberg, before he left, we were having a conversation in his office after when was this? This would be 20, 2020, 2020, 2021, after Biden won that election. And Bob was all upset because he wasn't getting traction on real estate issues. And he thought that he was in crowd enough with that administration to get through what the realtors wanted, misunderstanding that real estate can't be a political party's goal on either side of the aisle. It has to be a foundational American
That's
thing.
right.
It just
That's
it
right.
just is.
That's right.
And so when I was talking to him, I may have made the comment that while we were fussing over who was going to get to sit on the boat because of the nonstop focus on DE and I, that we're fighting over who sits in the seats. Meanwhile, the boat has gone all the way down the river. There is no boat now. So, what are we fighting over? When in reality, and the craziest thing to me about that whole movement, Rob, is that when I look around Realtor World, my friend crowd, which is a bunch of the super nerds, literally one of everybody. It's organically because of what our business looks like, because our business is a grassroots patriotic
Mhm.
organization. The peer and friend group that I have is organically really diverse, but then when you artificially put layers on top of it, then you're distracted. And so
Right.
my concern at that point, that was 2021. We've been distracted at that point for several years, but we weren't looking at affordability, availability, highest and best use, grave social responsibility, that this is the American dream, not one side of
That's
the
right.
aisle or the other. We lost all of that to focus on a pet project that was brought forth by extremists in the left wing party who want us divided. And the
Right.
realtors fell for it. And I think that's the part that frustrates me the most because I mean, I've been in the business 25 years. What I see happening in realtor world today is not the same thing that it was 25 years ago when you could go to the table, turn it off and say, we're talking housing today. And it was at all hands on deck. There was a universal focus on the responsibility of housing and why it has to be available in all communities and all price points and for everybody. And then that turned into checklist. And I think that's what's caused Chad to feel like he's outside of realtor world and the patriots who message me because they're panicked to say anything online
Right.
when they have nothing ugly to say. They know they're going to get castigated by the ones who scream the loudest has caused the organization to lose its clout. Whether or not anybody wants to admit that, we don't have the same advocacy clout we used to. And I think it's because we got distracted.
It might be. So we're not going to solve everything in this episode. We're also not going to solve everything just because you and I, random people, happen to have a podcast. I get that. But for me, the motivation was, and this is where the Charlie Kirk thing really hit me. This guy was a 31-year-old young father, husband, 2 little kids. And that guy knew he was under threat. You know what I mean? He had security teams. He knew, and he kept doing it. I guess for me, I'm like, all right, I have a blog, I have, industry podcasts. I'm kind of a figure, like I get it. And I really didn't want to get into the political things, right? Because it's politics and real estate is over here. Through this, for me, I think it's okay. We can't stay silent anymore. We can't just like we're just gonna kind of get along to go along to get along. And like, no, it can't happen. I'm not a realtor. You are. My wife is. You know what I mean? Like my friends are. I feel like at a minimum, as an outsider, maybe I can remind y'all this is where you come from. Y'all are patriots. You're supposed to be a patriotic organization for this country and our civilization, right? Not for foreign investors, not for illegal immigrants. Like it's supposed to be for this country and its citizens. And to your point, as you brought up right at the beginning, we are going through such a major crisis in the country. I think enormously in part because the lack of housing affordability for the younger generations. Honestly, if I
It's
were
the
to
reason Mom Donnie has a chance in New York City,
bingo,
Rob. That
bingo,
guy has no chance in a normal world, but the fiat money has created an abnormal world. The young people have been told they have no hope. And so there is a place here
of
where, yes,
course,
the realtors have been distracted.
of course,
The mainstream media has
of
tried to
course,
redefine real estate. And then they've told the young people over and over,
of
you're
course.
never going to buy. You're always going to rent. You're a generation of renters. There's no hope for you. So they've been fed nothing. So when a little overly polished socialist wealthy dude stands up and says, "Hey, free groceries, will freeze the rent, free everything," they're thinking, well, everybody else told me there's nothing. He's given me something. Of
Sure,
course, they migrate to that.
sure.
So the question becomes, should real estate, organized real estate, have anything to say in that realm? Well, realtors don't even really have a place in New York City. It doesn't even have an MLS. Okay, so first of all, you have to separate yourself from all of the sacred cows in real estate to understand that if you have that kind of a movement in one of the greatest cities in the world, then you should be the one in the conversation to say, actually, you're in a city where there is opportunity because there is the opportunity to buy a co-op with somebody, and there's opportunities to do this and to do that and to find a way.
Right,
But we're the original profession that says let's find a way. That's what our patriotism has always looked like. It's,
right.
oh, you want to buy a trailer? Okay, let me go help you find one. Oh, we need a hard money lender. I got a guy. We are the I got a guy profession, and right now we're not standing in that gap because we're over here wailing and moaning and gnashing our teeth and, oh, but interest rates are too high and we don't have enough supply. And then we have to make sure we take care of this constituent group and that constituent group instead of housing.
Right. And yeah, the Mamdani thing came to mind, but it also came to mind, like again, the young man who became an assassin. Now, who knows what his story is? We're gonna find out, right?
I don't
But
think we're ever going to find out.
well,
That
maybe.
dude, he showed nothing in
I,
his court
what I'm saying is,
appearance
we'll find out. Here's my thing, though. How do you get a 22-year-old with his entire life ahead of him to go say, "Screw that! I'm just gonna throw my life away. I'm gonna go become this monster."
because he thinks his life has no value, Rob. And so he
That
thinks that there's no
yes,
hope. So what's the point?
yes. And I'm directly connecting that to if I were 22 and I'm like, there's no way I'm ever buying a house, right? I grew up in a nice middle class, home, but I'm like, I can't ever have that. I will never like I can't afford that life. Then you know what? I'm gonna turn and find something else that gives me some sort of meaning. I think the housing crisis is the single greatest crisis confronting our nation. Realtors at the front line of it. You belong to a movement and organization which is deeply patriotic and deeply concerned about this nation and its citizens. I think it's time to start reminding people of it. And you know what? If it ends up that you and I do this and just our 6 friends or whatever are the only ones who care, then so be it. Then so be it. We've done our part to get the word out there, to get the idea out there. I don't think that's going to be the case because I think, and you travel the country way more than I do, talking to rank and file membership all over the place. I believe that the rank and file realtor, even if they're not political, right? Even if they're not like out there, like I'm a Democrat, like even if they're not, I think they inherently have this feeling in their gut that they're doing this for their community, for their city, their county, their clients, their friends, and ultimately for the country. I think they deeply are patriots. I think they're the salt of the earth. And I think it's time we start reminding them of it. Because
Well, and I
certainly,
think that that's why the lawsuit hit so hard, Rob. There were so many of our members who they have served every single person who's ever called them. They have found a way. There's times they've made almost no money, and then for them to be attacked by really wealthy lawyers and to be defended by really wealthy lawyers who didn't even know how to defend them because they didn't understand them, they've been denigrated, and a lot of them were they were not making money hand over fist. They were donating their commissions back to cover a refrigerator or a repair just to hold somebody's homeownership dream together. I do think that their connection to the public and their connection to their communities is evidenced when we talk about the state of organized real estate and the three-way agreement. And almost every I go in a room and I say, how many of y'all, if you were given the chance to not have all three, but you could pick, how many would choose your local? All the hands go up.
mhm,
Who would choose your state? 75% of the hands go up because that's all our fabric, that's our
right.
republic. How many of you would stay with national? And it's a sprinkling of hands because they
That's right.
feel disconnected, they feel unheard, they feel unseen, and they don't feel that same loyalty and
That's right.
duty that is the same thing that's causing the housing crisis for the younger generation. They're not heard, they're not seen. They're those of us that are our generation, Gen X, we might fuss at them and look at them on the TikTok and say, "Quit your bitching, quit buying
Sure.
Starbucks and stuck it up." And I've said that plenty of times, but
Sure.
at a certain point, we start to realize the gap is strong, and so this side of leadership has to recognize it and to answer that patriotic piece, for them to continue serving their communities, the organization has to have a mea culpa, and it still hasn't done it. Not
It has not.
since the first moment that lawsuit was dropped, and then for years we're told by former chief legal counsel that it's fine, we're going to win, we're right, we're going to win. No preparation for
Mhm,
restructure, and then they get slammed. And the thing is, it wasn't NAR that got slammed; it was the members.
mhm,
Every article says NAR sucks, and look at all these members out here making all this money, and they're thinking, "I get paid once in a blue moon. I work for free all the time." What are you talking about?
right.
And the frustration's really high, but by the same token, they're still out there every single day volunteering at Habitat. They're at the battered women's shelter. They're picking up trash. They're going to
Yep.
school. They're answering the phone because they know that the person on the other end of the phone has zero chance at the American dream without the realtor
Mm.
because only the realtor holds your hand.
Yeah. So that's what we're attempting to do, right? This is an intro. Um,
A
so
3 hour
that's
intro
my
is way
okay.
too
So
Joe Rogan for our six
I know, right?
listeners.
So I mean, this was just sort of, I think, why I wanted to do this and why I wanted to do it with you. Why did you want to do this?
Because I get a headline in my email every day and I want to say something about it, but I can't. I'm going to sound like an angry person with the way I respond to everything, even though when I'm on a stage, I love reminding the members that they're actually the good guys and the organization has made dreadful errors. But when I see the headlines come in, what I don't see is my trade association responding. Not that you can respond to everything, but they got paid spokespersons and paid PR staff. When you see garbage like this, let's see, let's look at one of the headlines from today. Just for an example, for you who don't have my email box, today we have a headline that says, that's our new artwork for this fancy show. All right. New national report finds real estate transfer taxes suppress housing supply, harm lower income families, and fail to deliver on promised revenues. Findings should serve as a cautionary tale for policymakers looking for quick fix revenue measures. All right. So that one doesn't make me mad because it's true. Transfer taxes are terrible. So, okay, where is the NAR, world's largest grassroots organization? Where's the army of influencers that are told, look, transfer tax is bad. money never gets to the homeowners, it's getting squandered, but that wouldn't be what their talking points would say, because it would say like that headline, which was this long, like the Michael Scott when he made that headline about his rabies fun run in series. That was episode 1, season 4. And so you've got the headline is this long, break it down, but we're not responding. And transfer taxes are going to be a growing issue as revenues shrink, because now the truth is coming out from the BLS about the unemployment rates, and
Yep.
we are going to, and inflation's still there. So we're going to watch local governments look for money. They're going to want a transfer tax. And you know who says yes? Renters. They don't give a shit. And then you also have the homeowners who have no intention of selling. They don't give a shit. Charge that California person who came in over here. And I mean, that's a problem in North Carolina. We've got a whole burgeoning movement of people that we don't want y'all here because you're killing our state. And I may agree with them some of the times, but other times I'm like, yo, too far, people. But that's how transfer taxes sneak in, and then who
Sure.
gets punished with it later? Grandma, when she's got to goat the home, and then she loses a chunk of her equity because of poor policymakers and the money goes nowhere. That's the reason I wanna do a show like this, because I think our members are smart enough to understand these big topics, and then if we can talk about it in a way that's understandable, they can go to the planning and zoning and county commission meetings and say, "Yo, yo, yo, don't do a transfer tax. Here's why it's bad, because they're not getting it from their trade association." And then maybe, just maybe, because I know a lot of the leadership still watch and listen to me, even though they won't admit it since I'm persona non grata for whatever reason they cooked up in their head. So maybe they're going to hear this and say, you know what, Rob and Leigh said something good, and they'll take something we talked about and run with it. That's awesome. We don't need any credit for any idea or thing we
I don't.
talk
Yeah.
about on this show. We just want people to have the right conversations, and the right conversation has nothing to do with where your governance meetings are held or how much you're getting in the way of perks when you're on the
Right.
board of directors.
And I think that's one of my motivations as well. I mean, like I said, it's weird. I think the leadership as well. I've met with and I've worked with so many of the volunteer leadership. You know what? The vast majority of these people, those men and women, are just good people trying to do the right thing. But in a real way, I feel like they've been missing kind of a guiding principle. They've been missing a North Star for the entire time I've been in the industry, right? Like
Mm,
what is the North Star of a realtor association? You know
our,
what it is
our
to them?
organization can't tell you that
No, no,
because they have
they
15
can.
North Stars, which means
They
you don't
can.
have one.
They can and they will. Ever since Bob Goldberg made the speech, what I've found going to board meetings, going, having strat plans, doing all that, the North Star of the realtor organization today is member benefit.
Is it though?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. Now, whether they effectively do that or not is a secondary thing, whether they execute or not. But the North Star is member benefit, right? They talk about it constantly. They're motivated by it. How can we help our members? How can we help our members do better business? How can we make our members make more money? Whatever. It's member benefit. What I'm proposing is that the real North Star of the local organization, of the state association, of the national association is patriotism, is love of this country, because that is written in your goddamn preamble. The preamble has no mention of member benefit, none. In fact, the preamble has a lot of mention of member sacrifice,
Right.
right? In order to benefit the nation and its citizens. I think it's time to remind the realtors. And again, I don't think we're going to be successful with everybody. I get it. People are going to disagree with us. That's okay. Disagreement is fine. Y'all do your podcast, talk about, actually, no, forget America. It's not about patriotism. It's the globe, or it's
Yeah,
member.
please
Fine.
say it out loud for us so
Right.
I can
Do
know
that.
what you think.
Do that. But I think for you and I think based on my travels, based on your travels, we think that this is the vast majority of realtors at the member level, at the realtor level. And our attempt is simply to remind y'all and put a new North Star into place, right? That's our attempt. Now, we're going on and on. We're going to get into some substantive future episodes. I think what we wanted to do is actually get into the specific issues and topics. And there are some big ones, y'all. There are some big ones. I'll just bring one up now. I don't want you to respond to it. I think we're going to talk about it. But for example, I think we do have to address how a realtor should handle foreign investors. Okay. Is it going to be a real contentious topic? I get it. You and I might differ. But I think if we agree that we are going to be guided by the idea of patriotism, of care, of concern for this country and its citizens, and how then does that filter through to the way we think about these things? That's at least a conversation worth having.
And that's why our conversations are going to have data points involved
That's
because
right.
I already know what people that I've enjoyed for years will
Yep.
say just by us having that topic is that we're racist for having the
That's right. That's
conversation.
right.
And so you're not allowed to come on our program and call us isterphobes. We're going to be looking at data because we have to have an ability to look at the grand picture so that we can say there's option A, option B, option C. Is there a
Right.
way to
Right.
figure out together what highest and best use is, figure out a way that does promote the country and her citizens?
That's right.
And that's what it all has to come back to. And so it is going to be a tricky topic because a
Of
Miami
course.
realtor sees foreign investment far different than somebody in Omaha,
Totally.
Nebraska. And
Totally.
that's the beauty of our organization. We should
But
have all
here's
those
right.
viewpoints.
But this is what I would like to have. If those voices exist, great. Here's the thing. This is not a left right. This is not a Democrat Republican.
And nothing we've said should be.
Right, and I'm an anarcho-capitalist libertarian. So, I don't care about your parties. What I would want is that Miami realtor, you know what? If they're coming forward saying, listen, I'm a patriot. I love this country and its citizens. Here's my take. Here's my answer, how this fits in with this North Star. Let's have that conversation, right? Because you and I don't have all the answers.
No, but we have lots to say about things we don't
We
have
have lots to
answers
say,
for.
and the only way we're going to get to answers is by getting the ideas out there. And I think for far too long, we have simply not had these ideas out there. We have simply not put even the concepts out there to debate and discuss. Our attempt, what we want to accomplish, is getting the ideas out there. Right.
Well, it reminds me of something
That's
my
it.
dad said for years, which is that, and my dad's a retired realtor. He got in the business in 78. And he said he wished going back in time that he had been more involved in the association earlier in order to bring a common sense viewpoint on real estate to the table because he was watching it become so diluted.
Right.
And he said, in his mind, you put your head down and work. That's a Vietnam veteran's response to everything. Don't
Yep.
listen, put your head down and work. And for too long, you, the good members, have just put your head down and worked. You said the association doesn't speak for me. This is crazy. I'm going to keep my mouth shut and I'm just going to work. And we're at a place right now, dare I say, it's a turning point where you don't have that luxury anymore.
No.
You cannot put your head down and work when there are people out there that are actively working to destroy the country from within and from without. And so,
Yep.
is real estate the way that we solve it? I've always contended that real estate is where the best people are from because we are patriotic, we're hardworking, we're not guaranteed an outcome, but we work anyway. And our issues are common sense, foundational American bedrock issues, which should not have a home on either side of the aisle, but be something we do have in common. Just like
That's right.
we used to have the American flag in common. So if we want to have things in common again, it's very easy for it to start with housing and who realtors are and
That's right.
how we can tell our communities that actually, housing is one of the ways forward.
That's right. And housing is one of the challenges we have to deal with. So, all right. This is just as a way of intro. Like I said, if you saw this first episode, and who knows, 6 months from now, people might find this like, hey, you guys said this, and you know what? This is what we're attempting to do. Hope that
And
you guys.
also, we're grown-ups, and grown-ups have the ability to grow and change their opinions, although I might
That's right.
not, but I'm open to it.
That's right. As my personal motto is, I have strong opinions, weakly held. So if there's evidence and argument to the contrary, I'll change my mind. I will change my strong opinions. But
But seriously, whoever wants to be our voice of God, we expect you of our 6
yes,
listeners to crop up, and
yes,
you can voice record it, and you'll be
yep,
famous, I mean, amongst the 6 people who watch our
yep.
show. Maybe
And
7.
and we're brand new, so we're going to have email set up so you guys could send in questions or topics. We are going to put this on YouTube, so if you want to put
Oh,
comments below, do that.
that's right. I did set us up an email.
Yeah,
Let's see, where did I make it? What is today? Today is
the 18th.
what day did we do this? Monday, maybe?
I think
I
so.
don't know. IDK. Let's see. The young people say IDK. You'll cut this out anyway.
No, I won't.
Oh, you're gonna let them watch me here? All right, here we go. Our domain is under all podcasts. And if you're old enough to start giggling because you're thinking about the tink tink
Yeah.
advertisement, then you're my people. And if you're young and have no idea, that's just go to YouTube, I guess. Info at underallpodcast.com. You can send us your, hey, talk about this.
Right.
Hey, what do you guys think about this headline? Hey,
Right.
keep my name out of it. We
Right.
absolutely know that not everybody is willing to put their beliefs on full display. So
Yep.
we will 100% honor your anonymity. It won't be screenshot and put in a text thread because, spoiler alert, screenshots are just the same as typing things. And you'll be safe to send it to us. And actually, I probably should have done a Proton Mail account for that. So maybe we'll add one later, but it's
Yep.
info at underallpodcast.com.
All right. There it is. Thank you, Leigh. Great chatting with you and looking forward to this journey with you.
All right, let's do it. High five.
Let's do it. All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening.